Hello students, so this is another video lecture on fluorescence and stereo microscopes. So in the previous chapters in this unit or in the lectures in this unit, we've been seeing some of the aspects of microscopes. We've learned the light microscope so far, which is commonly called the compound microscope, which had a light source, usually natural light, white light. It could be electrical source, it could be a mirrored source, which projected light through some lens systems onto our sample, which is on a slide. And the sample either transmitted light, reflected light, or absorbed light on different places. Based on that, the transmitted light was passed through some objective lenses, magnified, and we were able to make a virtual image based on the transmitted light of our object, which was a magnified image of the object, so we could understand the microscopic features of our object. That was how a compound microscope worked. It has a lot of applications in forensic science, but in certain scenarios, like take for example, an easy example would be a rape case, for example, where we are looking for seminal stains on our clothes or on vaginal swabs, for example, where we are looking for spermatozoa cells. And these spermatozoa cells, the problem is they are very translucent. So in a compound microscope, if you have a translucent cell, it's not going to transmit light completely, it's not going to absorb light completely, it's not going to reflect light completely, and it tricks our eyes. We can miss out on spermatozoa cells when they are translucent cells. Even if you stain it, it's going to be difficult to find, because in a scenario like a rape case, the seminal stain is going to be old and the number of spermatozoa cells is going to be less. So to pick it up in a big slide would be difficult most of the times. That is where we use the advantage of a fluorescence microscope. So what we're trying to achieve here, we're basically trying to highlight the spermatozoa cells so we are able to easily pick it up. So give it a different color, a different glow, or highlight it, easy to pick it up. That is how a fluorescence microscope helps us. In this lecture, we'll just try to identify how these two microscopes work. So this is a simple general look of a fluorescence microscope. So as you can see, it looks like a compound microscope. Most of its parts look like a compound microscope. You have a light source here. You have a condenser iris system here. You have a mechanical stage with a slide holder here. You have your objective lens here. You have your eyepiece here. It's a trinocular microscope, so you have a camera as well here. You have a few other parts. This is another one part, and this is one more part, and you see a screen here. So this is your light source, which is connected to the electrical input. This light source is usually a xenon lamp or a mercury lamp, which can produce high energy radiation. So high energy radiations, usually the lower wavelength radiations are your high energy radiations. Your UV rays, your X-rays are your high energy radiations. So usually we use UV light, not X-ray light. X-ray light can give you better results, but then they have their own practical difficulties. So we go with UV light. So UV light is produced, brought through the body tube and into your light source. That is the idea. And there is also a reflected light scenario here. We'll be talking about it more. This filter is basically to protect yourself from ultraviolet radiation. Ultraviolet radiation for a long time is not good for our skin and our eyesight and things. So this filter is basically to protect ourselves. This UV fluorescence microscope is usually housed in a dark room. That is when it works well, your glow is easy to be identified. So usually a fluorescence microscope is placed in a dark room, and this produces your UV light, which is passed through the body tube and through the objective lens itself. We are going to look into the scheme in the next slide. So this is the usual structure of a fluorescence microscope. So what happens in a fluorescence microscope? In a fluorescence microscope, like just now we saw, a light source is here. Okay, up to here is your light source. So a xenon lamp with a filter which can only filter out your UV light, pure high efficiency UV light. It's a high energy UV light which is passed on to what is known as a dichroic mirror. So a dichroic mirror, how it works, it basically is able to reflect all the low wavelength lights, low wavelength radiation. Whenever it hits on a dichroic mirror, it gets reflected. Whereas if you're going to hit a high wavelength light, a high wavelength light would actually pass through a dichroic mirror. We'll be looking into it. So basically, a UV light from the light source is reflected by a dichroic mirror through your objective lens and onto your specimen. Okay, so UV light falls on your specimen. The phenomenon of fluorescence is basically that whenever a fluorescent object is hit with a high energy radiation, like your UV light or your X-rays, it absorbs the high energy radiation. The electrons in that sample, in that object, are excited to its higher energy state. And when that light is released, or when the effect of the light is gone, the electrons fall back to its original state. And when it falls back to its original state, the energy that that electron gained, it's going to release out as electromagnetic radiation. Okay, so it can be light of a particular wavelength. So here, if the sample is going to be a fluorescent sample, it's going to absorb the UV light that is going to fall on it, and that UV light, it is going to reflect out into your around the sample. So supposing this is your sample, okay, and you are going to get your UV light falling on it. So your ultraviolet light comes and hits it. The sample has its own structure. So it has a nucleus, it has orbits around it, on which are your electrons. So when your UV light hits, this electron is going to move on to a higher energy state electron orbit. When the UV light is taken away, it's going to fall back. When it falls back, it's going to release any kind of, let's not understand what that energy source is, but it's going to release away the energy that it formed in the form of electromagnetic radiation. And this electromagnetic radiation that we just now saw here is going to be our electromagnetic radiation that is going to be passed on back through your objective lens now, and it's again going to hit your dichroic mirror. Now it's a high energy electromagnetic radiation, so it's going to pass through your dichroic mirror. I just now explained how a dichroic mirror works, and we are going to see that electromagnetic light radiation light, and that is going to be exactly how your object is going to be. It's going to magnify your object and send it through your dichroic mirror onto our eyes. So we will be easily able to identify the object in a general background. We'll be able to pick out the fluorescent items more easily now, and that is what we want. Okay, so something like this, we're able to identify spermatozoa which is fluorescent easily on a dark background. We don't need to strain our eyes. We don't need to work for a long time. We don't need to scan through the entire smear for a long time. It's easy to pick it up. The reproducibility, the accuracy is highly increased when you're using a fluorescence microscope. This is one adaptation of a light microscope. The next one that we're going to see is your stereo microscope. So this is your common structure of a stereo microscope. If you can see, almost looks like a light microscope, but it's got a few changes. Okay, so like you can see, the sample is placed here. It's not a mechanical slide holder. It's instead a table or a bench where you place your sample. Here, you're not going to place only a glass slide. Instead, you're going to place opaque objects also can be viewed under a stereo microscope. You don't need to have only transparent smears. You can even place, say, a stone, insect, glass piece, a gem, or things like that, or a bullet over the stage here. It also has a light source under this stage here. So there is one light source which is going to throw light through the sample onto your objective lens that is here. It looks like a single objective lens. I'll come to it after I explain the light sources. So one light source which is here, which is going to be a a transmitted light source. Then there is also another light source, if you can see here, a bulb pointing here, which also shines on the object. This is a reflected light source. So this light is going to fall on your sample and is going to get scattered or reflected, which your objective lens is going to pick up. Okay, so there are two light sources in a stereo microscope. It has a wide objective lens because your object is also going to be wide. It's not going to be a very thin object or a very small point of view. Instead, you want to see a bigger point of view. So the objective lens is big. The bigger the lens, the power, the focal point is going to change. So the magnification of a stereo microscope is drastically reduced. You will not be able to achieve 400 or 300 times magnification. The magnification will come down to around 40 or to 100 times your object's size. And then you have two eyepieces. A stereo microscope will always have two eyepieces. A stereo microscope you must use a stereo microscope by using both the eyepieces in tandem. You can't look through one eyepiece and appreciate what you're going to see in a stereo microscope, because this is the major part. What happens here is the major difference of a stereo microscope. I'll be explaining it. So far it's almost like a compound microscope. You have an object here, even though it's an opaque object. You have a light source, a reflected light source, a transmitted light source falling into your objective lens and then going through your eyepiece. But what happens here is a slightly important or a slightly different quality of a stereo microscope. So what happens here in a stereo microscope? Like I said, you have a sample, you have light sources which are falling on the sample. There is a light source which passes through the sample also. Okay, now what happens through this objective lens and your eyepiece canal or this optical tube? What happens? These reflected and transmitted rays follow two different optical paths into your left eyepiece and into your right eyepiece. You're not getting a same optical path. You have two different optical paths to your left and to your right. Completely dedicated optical paths from your sample. Now your left eye is visualizing a different point of view of the sample. Your right eye is visualizing a different point of view of the sample. Okay, right eye imagining or able to identify or create a virtual image of a different perspective of the object, and left eye of a different perspective of the object. It basically gives you a three-dimensional image. Not possible in a light microscope, not possible in a fluorescent microscope, but highly possible in a stereo microscope. This is how a stereo microscope works in the optical tube and tweaks your brain to understand the object in a three-dimensional manner. And what is the application here? We could use it in things like entomology, for example. We can understand what type of insect it is, what stage of insect it is. We use it in question documents where we can find out if tracing has happened, if there is some change in indentation, if there is some change in pen pressure. We can identify multiple different things on the question documents also. We can use it for gems, stones, soil, glass, different such three-dimensional objects. So this way we have a greater advantage when we're using fluorescence and stereo microscopes.